Jeremiah Boucher, a commercial real estate investor with over 20 years experience. This show is designed to help you build your business, become a better real estate investor, and help you see opportunities that will keep you ahead of the competition. This is Finding Your Edge.
Okay, and we are back, ladies and gentlemen. I am here with your host, Jeremiah Boucher. I'm Marty Grizzanti, and this is, as you know, Finding Your Edge, where we continue the journey and sharpen our tool to find our edge and to get exactly what we're looking for and to find out what our strengths are and double down on those and maybe finding out what your weaknesses are and kind of maybe handing that off to someone stronger. But anyways, Finding Your Edge, Jeremiah Boucher. How you doing, brother?
Good, man. Thanks, Marty.
Excellent.
Got to get together here, man. Finally.
Well, you've been traveling since we last met, which has been about 3 weeks, and you haven't really been home. So I understand. And here you are again, background of another hotel room. Where are you? You know, what have you been up to? I think everybody's kind of wanting to know that.
Yeah, Miami, baby. I don't spend much time here, but I got caught in the little hurricane that they had. So I had the 3-day stint where I stayed indoors and just worked on some things. And finally the sun came out and I could take off today. But I came to the Ascent conference. It's a conference for GPs, LPs, real high level real estate investor conference. And got exposed to a lot of institutional guys. There are a lot of guys that either work in New York City or in LA, big developers, debt guys. A lot of them have funds where they raise hundreds of millions of dollars and then allocate it into guys like me or into huge projects. So it was a eye-opening experience and a little intimidating when, you know, the conference is $5,000 for 2 days, you know, and you're walking into these real ritzy hotels and dealing with the A players that are out there and hearing their own story and their niche and their angle and the way they process information and how they run a company. And it was, I got comfortable around it, but initially it was a little daunting.
Sure. I could understand that. And I guess that's a great way of bringing in the A players if it's $5,000 for 2 day event. So let's talk about it. I mean, what were some of the things? I mean, last episode we talked about, you know, market state of the union. Is there certain things that people are focusing on? I mean, was there a common theme that you were hearing at this event? Is it that people are they're not stopping, they're going to keep going forward? Or were people saying, no, you know what, we're really not doing any big projects right now and we're waiting to see what happens with the elections, so to speak?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was a mixed bag. So I had some people saying, we're still raising capital. It hasn't slowed down. I've had other people say, yeah, it's slowing down. We're not raising like we did. I think everyone was in consensus that development or projects that aren't stabilized right now are extremely risky with the cost of debt and with the looming recession. And if revenue is going to go down or rents are going to go down. And I don't think they were, my consensus from my perspective was that everyone wasn't really, they weren't admitting fully to the degree of, I think, volatility or challenge ahead. I mean, or some were, some weren't, but some, I think to summarize it, I think everyone sharpened their skills. They're definitely on alert, and I think they were on autopilot the last few years where it was rinse and repeat and buy and it would go up regardless. And now I can feel that heightened fear in the room.
Is that a lot to do with, again, what the Fed is doing? I mean, is that a big part of like with the interest rates and what's happening? And so I guess how do you be competitive right now? Right? Like, how do you find your edge at this point? How do you find your edge when everybody seems to be either, hey, let's take some time, let's gather, let's figure it out. I mean, you're on offensive mode, right? Is your company still on offensive mode? Hey, we're still looking at deals. We're still funding stuff. We're still making sure things are happening. I mean, how do you take this, what you learn from an event like this, and bring it to your company?
Yeah, that's good questions, Marty. So to answer your question, we're offensive, but sometimes you have to shore up your resources and know when to really lay out that punch, really when you're going to make an impact and make an offensive move and put a lot of effort behind it. We're waiting, so it's like it's like a hungry fighter ready to go, but we just can't get, the opportunity's not there yet. So we have a lot of projects, we have a lot internally to work on. So for me, the way I interpret the state of the market and the feedback from a lot of the different investors and sponsors that were there that want to work with us, it's, we got to get great at our operations. We got to get great at our construction. We got to look at every project internally and assess it, on the merit of its own individual success or failure. And that's a great place for us to be. And, as me leading from the front and kind of, getting the troops rallied up, I got to explain to everybody, this is where we're headed, and we got to be really careful on what we have. So let's focus back on inside the business and not worry so much about growing or expanding the outside of the business with new acquisitions.
Excellent. Okay. So that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's always been your edge, is at least from the book and from the continued conversations and the different podcasts, is, the management, right, is getting super, super good at knowing the numbers, knowing what you have, the construction, all these different things that I think is the separator for you guys.
Yeah. It's not, I'm not great at it. I mean, there's guys at that event that are Wall Street savants in terms of market savants, and they're modeling savants. They understand, numbers at a whole nother dimension than I do. But at least I feel like my core strength is being able to know the 5 macros, like the handful of macro drivers, and making sure that we stress test what we're doing. And I know where we need to be when we buy a deal. And that way, I can, and I think I'm being, not humble, I'm not bragging, but I feel like I'm somewhat of a better salesman or communicator than some of them, so that I can, in the moment, know how to influence a deal and how to be creative and structure a deal, especially in the markets that we're playing in, when the $2 to $10 million assets that mom and pops own, or they're not maybe competed on institutionally the same way. So I'm able to maneuver through some of these trying times by creating win-win situations and trying to be an outstanding communicator with the other party. And I believe, I love when people say yes. So it's like when I'm staying at the Four Seasons and I'm like, can I check in at 4 p.m.? Yes, we love that, sir. We value you, yes. Or if I'm eating and they say, can I add, another piece of salmon? Yes. So it's just like, I just want to tell sellers, it's still a service business, and I just want to say yes. So, yes. Can you close it this year? Yeah. And within my constraints, but as long as I know where the levers I can pull on, I want to make it easy as possible. Can you use my contract? Yes. And of course we're going to adopt it, but can you put up this earnest money? Yes. I want to, as long as I know it's something that I want to do business with, I want to do whatever I need to do to make the process as easy as possible. And I try to do that for investors. I try to do that in my relationships in my life. Like if someone's late 20 minutes, what's it gonna matter if I bitch at them and say, why were you late? I mean, if it's a professional thing and I am on a timeline, great. But if it's somewhere where I want to really have a good relationship, or I want to continue to grow in this relationship, just accommodate, right? Accommodate it. Like when you call a call center, or when you're dealing with the customer return referral or something like that, it's just, the more contentious it is, the more amped up you be, and the whole experience sucks. And, it's like, with these attorneys and these accountants and with sellers, and everyone gets all pressured up. As long as I know the objective underneath it all, I need this price or these terms, and I know the underlying asset, and this is what we can do. All that other stuff, I can just let it kind of float around, and I can just cater to what they want, cater to the ego, give them what they want, make sure they feel good and comfortable and smooth. And then in the end, the experience for them is better, and they want to work with me rather than this just constant headbutting.
Have you seen that as an issue for other people in your position, that are people that have, a fund, or they're, a GP, that sometimes maybe they're not accommodating. Maybe they're not taking some time to maybe realize the big picture, and just maybe taking a breath before they say something? Like, is that still, even though it's, you'd think that in people in those positions should have that. Do you still see like, man, this person made a mistake here? That was a big miss.
Oh, I'm telling you, Marty, as I get higher and higher up the ladder of whatever this is called, these different classes, it's a problem for a lot of people.
Mingya.
Yeah. The more institutional or sophisticated a lot of times they are. And I'm saying, I mean, the great CEOs and the great leaders definitely are outstanding at doing whatever's needed in a certain situation. But a lot of people that are professionals have huge egos. They have to defend them. And it's one of their biggest obstacles. And it creates so much resistance and tension and friction in a deal, especially attorneys and accountants. Very challenging. And sellers, particular sellers that feel like, and buyers. I mean, it depends on what side you're on. But the whole thing for me is, the point I wanted to get across to you was that if you know what's important, right, you know what you can give up on the chessboard, you can give up all these different pawns, and you know that all you need to do is get the damn queen to the other side and win the game. Just don't worry about all that other shit. Know what you can give up and then really make it pleasant as best as possible for the other side.
That's great. That's really great. Because I think a lot of people, they'd like to think that, hey, I believe I'm trying to create win-wins, right? I truly want to create win-wins. I'm a sales guy, right? A lot of people that are listening have been in sales and they want to continue their career in real estate and they want to, take those next steps. And I think it's through, like you were saying, one of your edges is the communication skills and reading people. I think a lot of people are missing that part where they're trying to maybe respond to what people are saying and not listening fully. And then, maybe they're just trying to wait till you're done talking a lot of times, right? Like you see that a lot. Well, I'm just waiting for this person to stop so that I can now say what I wanted to say instead of listening to what this person's saying and then hearing it. And then the other thing is wanting to do that. I think there's like the three aspects of listening is like, you have to know how to listen, right? We all know how to hopefully listen. And then you also have to kind of hear what that person is saying, right? That's good. Got to comprehend it. But then the third thing is actually wanting to listen to that person. Because I think a lot of people can miss some really big nuggets in this is what's important to this person. Like this is a piece that's a piece that's important. So I think that's great. I think that's really important to hear because a lot of people may think that, oh, well, of course these people have great communication skills. Of course this person's a great salesperson, but that may not be the case. And maybe that's where someone can come in and actually be a winner in that situation.
Yeah, Marty, I mean, you nailed it right there. That's what's been floating around in my mind is where, I'm doing the book again and I'm doing the Audible book and we're writing the story of how I got to where I'm at. And it's a great process for everyone to do. And at this level, it's such an inner game. It's always an inner game. It really is. But as the available options increase, where there's so many opportunities in different areas, because I have now infinitely more resources than I ever did. When in the beginning, it was me and a phone in a little room with a computer and, build it and I had nothing and no one behind me. And now, 60, 70 employees and, all the capital I can raise and the people that are dedicated to our vision. And, it's great. It's daunting, but it's a beautiful thing because, I've earned the right to have the decision-making capabilities to maneuver the company where I want it to go. And I've solidified really intense and strong relationships with people that will work with me and continue to fight to get whatever we need to built or created. But now for me, it's like, where is my attention? Like my most valuable asset is my attention, and my focus is what I mean, and that includes the energy that I put behind it. So I've never experienced how, more importantly, how valuable my time is at this stage in my life. It's like at 41 years old, days fly by so freaking fast. And I have these chunks of attention that I can put towards different projects. And with all the different things going on and, and as you're in the business with the same way as me, one thing is doing well, two other things fall apart, something else, you fix that, but then that changes the dynamic of another aspect of your company. And it's a constant shuffle to organize resources to achieve what we're trying to build here. So the point is through it all, the thinking time that Keith Cunningham talks about, really dedicating time to the strategy and looking at what resources are available to you, and really what are the values and the vision that I have. And then that's going to define and clarify what it is that I'm going to work on. So the biggest thing he asks is, what problem are you trying to solve? And that's a really vague question if you don't know context of it, but it's a really critical one. And I'm finally starting to understand a little bit more, is when you understand the scope of your entire company and what your edge is and what you're trying to achieve professionally or in your company, what goal you have. So for us, it's $1 billion in assets. Eventually that's just this huge growth goal out there. But, really underneath that, it's not how do we get $1 billion in assets. It's, right now it's okay. How do we have a competitive edge in the marketplace? What's the difference that makes the difference? And it used to be cold calling, and when no one else was calling, right? I could find a deal before everyone else. That's changed, right? And it was mailing when nobody was mailing, and I'd find some deals that way, and it was different. And I was building relationships. And it was mobile home parks when many people weren't doing mobile home parks. And then it was storage and tertiary markets, calling and mailing, and then construction in tertiary markets. So I adapt, right? My style is adapting over the time as I want to be ahead, and I see a niche, and then I apply my resources to those niches. Now I'm at the phase where, 350 million soon in assets under management. It's not only growth and what is the next asset or the next angle on growing the business. It's about how do I win at the game that I'm playing now at a higher level in the business that I'm in. And the number one problem to solve is how do we win at who has the best call center? How do we create a call center? How do we create, and we call it a contact center? Who can create the best contact center and who can get there first? That's really what it is, because the way to win at storage now is remote management. So how do you build the best contact center out there? Because all the advantages go to this player. If this team figures it out first, they're the winner, because your costs are dramatically lower. Your customer service is dramatically higher. You can go into markets no one else can go in. You have feedback and data like the REITs do, but in different markets that they're not in. And you have the best service, and you provide the best customer experience that no one else has. So for us, it's like I'm so clear on solving this problem, even though I have a million other things going on. I'm now applying my resources to not only the technologies and not only my current team, but finding new players and new team members that can complement and help solve this problem, where, I believe it's going to be a game changer, where it's going to enhance our enterprise value. We're not just one piece of real estate. We're 70 pieces of real estate, remotely managed at a very efficient margin. And our customers love us because, like I said in the beginning of the call, we keep things so frictionless. We say yes. We help people no matter what, and make sure that they, that process is simple for them.
Oh, it's great. I mean, geez, if you want to go back and re-listen to that, it's insane that I think that's like the coolest thing is about how to get clear and figuring that who can get to the fastest, best contact center is something that it's certainly through a series of just events that maybe that's something that just came to you like, hey, if we got to be great here, and if we can be great here, then the value of the company goes up so much higher, because that's the big separator. It's like, yeah, there's companies that are doing just like we are, storage facilities and tertiary markets that are growing and have pretty strong numbers and all those great things. But what's the way that when someone's looking at this that wants to buy this thing, because if we're putting value on something, it's because someone's going to buy it at some point. What is the thing that's going to really separate it? And it's that, right? Is that fair?
That's it, man. You get it. You understand it. That took 2 years, and when we talked last interview, think or get slaughtered. It didn't come to me there. It didn't come to me at Keith's event. And I went the year before. It didn't come to me. But it came to me as I started talking with more and more industry professionals, and I found the linchpin in the industry. And capital guys and investors don't understand it. They wouldn't know. I have to talk to the boots on the ground people in the trenches. And then I find out, okay, this is the missing link right here. So instead of applying all my efforts to go find more deals in a market where the deals haven't been readjusted based on new interest rates, where the values haven't changed, they haven't been compensated for the cost of debt, that would be a waste, right? If I spend a 30 or 40% of our resources towards going and finding new deals, but market conditions don't allow for that, then yeah, I might find one or two deals. But the opportunity cost of me figuring out the core problem that's going to enhance the value of the company by a couple $100 million has been completely lost. So, and the only person that makes that shot is me. I get to call the shot. So it's a fascinating thing for me to go to that place. But why I brought that up is because of the one thing you brought up is the presence. So it's really coming up and being present in what I'm doing, and try to be present at every moment now. So there's really there's a meaning in what I'm doing. And, we all want to escape and go on autopilot once in a while. But I've noticed my evolution over 20 years in business is I have the ability to be more present, and I'm able to not multitask and I don't need to be scattered. So yeah, I love to write things down and print it on my brain and be able to physically put it on paper. So I have a note, and then I'm able to assimilate all those notes together in my thinking time. And then it's really, what I talk about in the book, it's, the process of mastery and mastering one's craft. Like Bruce Lee says, it's reducing it to the essential. You want to take your skills, take your strategy, and then in any given moment, at any given time with presence, you strip it away. And then you use what instinctually is the right thing to do based on that moment, right? So for me, it's like it's so much deeper than business, and that's why this game is infinite, and it's very exciting. That's why I really love what I'm doing and being at the helm of the ship. And when I was at this conference, Tim Grover talked. I don't know. Have you heard Tim Grover?
Freaking Tim Grover, man! Relentless, insane book. It just, yes. You're a cleaner.
Yeah. So I hope the audience checks that out. But for me, I've never listened to his book, but I follow his content, in terms of him being Kobe's trainer for 7 years and then Jordan's trainer for 7 or 10 years. And he's an intense guy. He spoke in person, and it was great to the group. And when he was up there, I felt really impressed or influenced by his speaking style. His cadence was really unique, where he really did utilize these long pauses, and he emphasized a lot of main points. So you could tell it was almost like a training workout that we would do, where you could see there's reps and rounds, and then so he transitioned, break, and then into the next hardcore point.
Interesting.
Yeah, and really solidify that point, and then reset and go to another round. So there was probably 5 to 7 really solid points, but in those 3 or 4 minute rounds, he would encompass a point and get that point across. It was very regimented, and then he would get to the next point. But one of those points that I wanted to share, Marty, was he talks about the difference between fear and pressure, or stress and pressure. And when someone has stress, that they are out of control, where they feel the fear controls them, and they don't have reference points to handle the fear, and then they will panic. But if you look at an intense or fearful situation as pressure, you've put in the work so that you embody the fear, and the fear enhances the moment, and it actually sharpens the presence, and the presence actually it creates a power behind it, because it actually enhances, and the pressure is a privilege. He says, the stress is something that you let break you, but the pressure is a privilege, because you earn the position to be in that pressure situation. So it was like, where do you want the ball in your life? Do you want the ball and take the shot when it's your edge, when you have the ability, you have the confidence that I have the edge in this game, and I'm going to take this shot, versus you feeling stressed and then having to hand the ball off to someone else because you didn't put in the work to get the edge.
So good. There's so much to unpack, but really not really either. I was on a run And I've been asked this before, and I'm sure you've been asked this too, which is, what are you training for? What are you training for? You always see you running, or hey, you're always at the gym. Like, what are you training for? I mean, I don't have any events coming up. I don't know if you do, but the point was, it came to me as I was running again. Now, someone asked me this years ago, what are you training for? And I would just be at the gym and I wasn't training for anything. And it was like, it was for that opportunity. It was for an opportunity. And it's not because I'm going to be in some show or to run a race or to win. It's this. And when you said that, it's for the life, it's a never ending game. And because the training helps me get clear, it helps me understand what it is, what the big problem is. Because there's so many things that we can constantly work on. But if we can just move that one big thing, everything else will kind of take care of itself. And that's so awesome that you've earned it, right? That's the other thing. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, that of course you realize that it's the best contact center is what you need to do to really separate yourself to get to the next level. But it wasn't like that. I had to go to 3, 4, 5 different events to understand that. And I thought, because here's the other thing, I thought it was this, but it wasn't that. Right? So many times you thought it was this, but it wasn't that. But you had to do it to get to that spot where now it's clear. And that where when people go, pressure is a privilege, then you can go and smile when the pressure's on because the other people haven't put the work in. The other people haven't done it. So now it's even better. Because you feel that pressure, if you feel it, the other people are crumbling. Because actually I feel stronger because now I know they're not doing it. And I know they didn't do it because they didn't deserve it. So I think that's really important is all of it. And it starts with the mindset.
It does. Yeah. It is all the mindset. It's just an inner game, it's an inner battle every day, no matter what hotel room, plane I'm in my own house, in my office, in my office. It's like me and my mind. And that is the game. And that's everyone's game. It's you against you. It's always what it's going to be. And it really comes down. I don't know where I'm at in life because I know I'm probably HDAD or whatever the fuck they call it. I'm all over right. We're all over the place. We're excitable guys. We got a lot of energy. But it all comes down to sitting down, really focusing on those key problems, the key ideas, organizing our thoughts, creating a strategy, doing the work. And it takes a lot of intense focus, and that's what I notice as I evolve as a business owner and as a leader. That's where the real work is. And it seems like you're not working, but like the average person would be like, well, you're doing is writing on pieces of paper and taking notes and thinking. But I mean, that is the true work. And to what you said, Marty, he said one other thing in that speech Tim Grover did that I was impressed by. And he said, working with Kobe and Jordan, there was people would say they had a big ego. So he talked about ego, and he talked about, what was the other thing? He talked about ego and confidence. And he said, ego is when you have to prove everyone else wrong. Like I got, I'm going to do this and I'm going to show you and I'm going to show my dad. I'm going to show everybody out there that I could do this. And then, but confidence is when you show yourself that you can do it. You believe in yourself. You prove to yourself that I'm the one that does this. And I did it because, it's me against me and I proved it. So, and that's where true confidence comes from, not the external needing to prove anyone else wrong. It comes, and that's why you're doing what you're doing. And that's what I do, because we hold ourselves to a standard where it's not about I'm training. I don't need some other race to validate me. I mean, yeah, there's competitive games and there's scores that we keep, and that's great, but the confidence is built when you prove to yourself every day that I won the battle. And that's what I like. That's what these guys, the best of the best, have, because day after day they win the battle in the internal battle.
I think the biggest thing that can help people that are listening that want to do that is to be around other people who think like that.
Yeah,
it's very easy to get sucked into whatever group message you're in that's talking about the latest problem with the politics, the latest problem with what's happened in the market, the latest problem, right? The news, right? And I think if people limit that stuff and they try to surround themselves, because we all have heard Tony Robbins say proximity is power. If we can continue to do that, I think that can elevate you. Just that alone can probably separate you. And I love what you said about the confidence thing, about the difference between ego and confidence. And I think that people get that mistaken, is that, I'm going to prove it to somebody, when if you could prove it to yourself, and truly it's almost just, hey, if I can just keep these things sacred that I tell myself, and I can continue and consistently deliver on those promises that I tell myself that I can make and keep it, then that will absolutely just increase the confidence level in you, is just by keeping simple promises. Now, the other thing, it's really to yourself. The really tough thing, and that you mentioned, and I read this in Keith Cunningham's book, and I can't remember the book title off the top of my head. What was it called? The one that where
The Road Less Stupid.
The Road Less Stupid, where he keeps talking about the stupid tax, is the time to think. Because I am ADHD, right? And a lot of people that are typically higher level, kind of getting out after it, high energy salespeople, probably could have been prescribed some Adderall in their past life. And so when you said that is the hard work, I mean, what do you mean by that? Is it like really because my thing, and a lot of people maybe in my position that are trying to get to the next step, is like, I got to make another dial, because I can't go think right now. I got to get out of there and get after it, right? So you still need that. Still need to get after it. But my issue, and again, this is great to hear that this has been something that you've worked on, right? Someone who is now, a couple years older, is able to have been working on something like this, is that now you realize how important that is. So now I'm going to take that, and I hope everyone listening is going to take that and say, hey, no, take some time to think, because that's how you get clear, because that's how you solve the big problem. Because if we can solve the big problem, that's how everything else will take care of itself. Is that true?
100%. And I think I was Tony or somebody I was listening to, there's a time to think and plan, and there's a time to go execute and deliver, right? You got to segment your own time. You got to compartmentalize these ideas. You can't ever be in this one-dimensional mode where you're just going to strategize and plan because you're going to run in circles. You're never going to make a move. So yeah, you have to compartmentalize this. And for me, having that routine in the morning and I'm working on it, man. I'm not great at it, is getting to the point of that 30 or 40 minutes of undivided focus on, okay, this is the overall plan and this is the micro plan along the way. I can't be questioning or doubting or thinking I need to change my plan, from 9 to noon when I'm hammering on calls or negotiating with brokers or building relationships with banks. I can listen and I can be present and aware and then use that feedback to change my plan, but that's not the time to plan in those moments. It's time to be out there in the game, in the arena, playing.
Absolutely. No, and I think this is really important to hear, is that it's going and getting your business to be enlightened, right? That's what it's doing. My business has been enlightened, and I love that. And
the big thing I want to touch on and what I've been playing with is the power of listening. And what you did talk about, and I think that it's really undervalued when I don't know about you, Marty, but it's very rare when someone looks in the eyes and you can see that they're fully present. It's not. Do you find that happening often?
All the time, man. And it's such a turnoff when it doesn't happen. And I look at the people and I go, how have you gotten to the position that you're in? Sometimes I think that. And because you're not, like, when you're not listening, you're telling me that you don't care at all, right? So some people need to, maybe they are doing it, but you need to learn how to maybe sell the fact that you fucking are listening. And that may be to just nod your head when someone's talking, right? And I think that there's just big misses that people can do, where if you just act like you're listening, actually try to actually enjoy listening to the person, because you're going to get something from them, anybody that you're talking to, I believe. But yes, I think there's a huge, huge misses on a lot of people, because they're constantly trying to wait for you to stop talking, Jeremiah, so that they can tell you about something about them or whatever it is. Nobody should actually know, truly, nobody should, when you're talking to somebody, even know what you do for a living. My best conversation, when I know that I'm killing it, okay, because I'm being cognizant of this at this point, because I care, is that if I'm having a conversation with you, you don't know a thing about me, and I know everything about you. that's how I know I fucking killed it in that conversation. Mm-hmm. But go ahead.
Yeah, no, I can see the difference between leaders and successful people. And I can't say, just like you said, there is no common denominator that you're a great listener means you're successful. I mean, there's people that are extremely successful that are very poor listeners. And there's other people that are successful that are amazing listeners. But I think there's other ways to rate success, outside of financial gain. But I think at the end of the day, it's not absolute. It's not black and white. As more and more pressures or more and more obligations pull at your attention, it's very difficult to give people your undivided attention. So I noticed, though, that the greatest gift you can give someone is full presence. And I don't even think you need to act like you don't even need to key in that you are listening. People feel it immediately. I mean, they just know by the energy in your eyes and your body language that you are fully present. And people underneath it all, I think that's the highest valued gift you can give someone. And they don't know why they like you, but they like you a lot, and because they feel completely understood and acknowledged and appreciated. And that's just like, and so that is just such a simple tool and technique that everyone you can use in order to create rapport and build a connection and a bond, because it's all a relationship game. We talk about that all the time. So for me, though, it's being able to value my time in a way where some people don't deserve my attention and some people don't deserve yours. And those things need to be highlighted where if you're present and you know what you really want and what you have to achieve, you can filter through and really sift through all these different people that really aren't valuable with your time. And it's not like you're measuring people in financial gain. I just mean in terms of your actual outcome of your life, of what you value, So to me, it's being very protective of my time and trying to build a team up in my calendar, and has been just unbelievably different than I've ever had it. And even now my leaders in my company, everyone's calendar is coveted because the time is so valuable. But what I need to try to do is try to get even my team leaders present so that they're in the moment, being able to understand and listen. And I lead by example, because there's so much pulling at us where we're really deflected by all the emails and all the tasks where you actually can't get to the meat of being fully focused on solving a problem. So I'm sure everybody deals with this. And as you elevate in the status of the business game at the higher levels, it's more and more challenging to do this. And I don't know, man, I'll keep you up to date on how this evolves, but I feel like I'm on to something, and I know, that, you touched on it. It was so good that, one of my favorite lines in Fight Club is that the reason he goes to the people that are dying, the grieving groups, is because when you're dying, people really listen to what you're saying rather than waiting for their turn to talk. I mean, that's because time is coveted in a point where that is all you have left. It doesn't matter. Nothing else matters in terms of what you value or what you can get to someone, because you can't give any to someone that's dying besides more life. But so it's amazing to really understand, how important it is. And for us, if we can just continue to be better communicators, then we're going to be better leaders and better business people. And I want to be a better speaker. I mean, I think what I've came to the realization of is all the things that I've learned and through my experience in business and sales is I would like to really take it to another level with speaking. And now I'm crafting a few 10-minute talks and 20-minute and hour talks. So that's my focus moving forward.
I think that's what you should be doing. I think people, I'm inspired by you, and I know other people are. And here's the great thing about the inspiration that you're able to do is that when you inspire other people with your book, with the podcast, with the videos that you guys are putting together, and is that if someone's going to do it, it should be you, right? Like, hey, I really am doing this stuff. And oh, by the way, I really do care. And I really am doing what I say I'm doing. And that's the difference. And so if there's any, you don't need it, but if there's anybody, or if there's any feeling of doubt in that maybe I shouldn't be doing this, is that, well, you should. And the reason you should is because your intentions are good. And they're so good that, hey, I know that what I'm doing actually works. I want to really get it out there. I'm not a charlatan because there's a ton of them out there. So I think that's important. And I really believe you. And I say, I agree with you and I believe you. I know attention is the most coveted resource right now, more than ever, with 7-second clips and 5-second clips that are out there. Like you can't even, Netflix is dying because they can't even get that out anymore. It's too long because people, when you're watching Netflix, and I can speak to this, my wife and I were on our phones while Netflix is going on. Like because TikTok is right there, right? It's disgusting. I'm embarrassed about this, but it is true. Yes, it's good to know that listening will always win, and making sure that you want to listen to that person, I think, is key. Yeah, it is. Tying it back to our business here, the true asset is attention. So if we put out good content, then we're going to get good. We're going to get a compounded effect where, at this day and age, social media, like it or love it, hate it, whatever, it's here and it's the future. It's the now, like you had to realize that though, not too long ago. I know. Yeah, that's why we're doing this. Right. Exactly. Now. Yeah, exactly. So I am putting it's like, hey, we're putting the time in. Putting the time in. Yeah, we are. But that means we got to level up our game and know what we're talking about and add value to other people rather than take. So yeah, I'm really excited about for me, I'm working on the book. And I'm working on this stuff with you. It's tricky, man. Like it's hard to keep it all together. And I know everyone out there is dealing with their own challenges. How much do you do? How much do you not do? It's tough. It's consistency. It's getting it out there. I think there's a ton of value in this. And you know what else? There's a value to the people giving it. I know I get value from it. I know you are. I know just talking through things, it gets clearer. It becomes, that some aha moments as I'm just talking. It's therapy. And if it helps other people while they're listening, while they're going for a walk and listening to this, God bless them. Right. But truly, I think the best times are like when it's like, hey, this has really helped me out a lot. And it's been something that has given me those enlightened moments where I can now take these moments, whether I'm listening to a podcast or I'm on a podcast, and then go and then work on them. Take some smaller things and then go work on them and really take the time to, hey, I heard this part of this story. I'm going to bring it to my workspace and I'm going to go to town on it and see what I can develop from that idea. Yeah, that's such a good point, Marty. I think that the thing that I've been working with the author, and as we expand on the book, the one thing I wanted to really highlight, what was going on in my mind the last couple of days is, we all, and we had this when we first talked in one of our first interviews. It was having these unrealistic expectations or these standards, and especially in the self-help world or in the success-driven world or the social media world. Any world where you're comparing yourself to someone else's results or their I guess appearance on the outside, it creates a lot of challenges, especially with young people. And I had to deal with this a lot in my 20s, is I would make everything I had to be this amazing bodybuilder, or I had to be this amazing athlete, and I had to be rich by this age, and I had to have this perfect girlfriend, and I had to have this whole thing, and to be super smart and all these things that I had to have. And when I had these standards in my mind, like these delusional expectations, and then, it's almost like you're fed into like it's okay to be, they feed into it with the self-help world. Like, if you believe it, it can happen. And if you keep coming to these events, you can always meet these goals, or you can become this thing that you want to be. And yeah, there's slivers of truth to that. But the way I've seen it, reading that book, Good Strategy, Bad Strategy, and listening to Keith, and then understanding, the idea of the theory of constraints, I think it's important that the self-help world, or people that, look at podcasts and they're on this right now, we have to understand that in order to significantly improve or be excellent at one area, you have to remove or take away from other areas. There isn't infinite growth at every level. This is a very important topic. And for me, number one,
you create the game too. I had to choose what standard I wanted to live by. I'm not David Goggins running 10 to 30 miles every morning or whatever he does, like the guy is an absolute animal. But when I was younger, I would be influenced by someone that I thought was a mentor or someone that I wanted to emulate. And if I couldn't reach their standard, if I couldn't reach Arnold Schwarzenegger's standard, then somehow I was a failure. And that is physically impossible, number one. And then two, it's mentally, it's very distracting. It's very destructive for people. And I believe that there's so many people out there that see these media icons with social media influencers and athletes and artists. And the delusion is that, that you can be all things at once. And if you're not that, then you are a failure. And they don't acknowledge it, but you can see it because of the insecurity around having to project something that they're not. And then that inauthenticity really is offensive. It's off-putting. People don't want to be around it. So, I'm just saying this is what I've learned over my life is when I started to get real about what I valued, I said, this is what's important to me. I'm not going to be the best, have the best body in the room. I'm not going to be some pro bodybuilder. I said, that's just not it. I want to be healthy. I have a standard that I want to abide by. I want to push myself physically. If I meet that every day, I won the game. I feel good, and I'm proud of who I am. And I like to box and do a few things there. So that makes me feel good, but I'm never going to be the best. And I made the conscious trade-off that financial freedom and independence and personal development, me internally doing all the things I wanted to do all these years. That's where I want to be a great communicator. I want to be a great business person. And I want to be financially free and independent and intelligent. So I know exactly how the game works. And I consciously said, I'm not going to be a bodybuilder. I'm not going to be an athlete. One, I don't even genetically can do it. Two, I don't have the desire. Like if I want to be a great piano player and I love the piano and I talk about it all the time, but I'm not willing to commit and sacrifice relationships and money to be a great piano player. Why am I bitching about not being a great piano player? That's just being a victim and no one wants to fucking hear it. Right. So the whole point for me is, as people are younger, understanding the theory of constraints going, if I want this in my life, in the beginning, I truly believe this, you can't be Puff Daddy and have 5 different brands and be a great artist and be a great dancer and musician. None of that shit. You get great at one thing first. And then after you have all these resources, like Richard Branson, then you can spread your tentacles across many industries because 1, you have the experience and you built up the capacity. And 2, you have a shitload of resources with money and people behind you. But in the beginning, you have to master your craft. And that craft really, you have to define what matters to you. And for me, my skill sets allowed me where, I was an Eagle Scout as a kid. And I'm so glad my parents made me do that. But they made me project manage, be a great communicator, have to influence and sell people on things, have to lead other people, have to take ownership, right, for myself. And those things like that translated so well for me in business where, okay, I'm willing to not get married and have kids right now. This is me personally, and I'm willing to not be an elite athlete. And I'm willing to not be in the beginning and like a social media person or author or whatever that was. I want to be a great salesperson and a great business person, and that was, and I sacrificed everything for that, everything I could, like literally, like nothing else mattered. I didn't buy anything, no shit. I put every dime back into it. I found every person that would listen to me and back me that would work for me to follow my vision. And I just dedicated my life to this. And then now at this level, I don't feel like I have to measure against other people, even that are in my industry, competing with me or, the Sam Zell level. Like now I think I did what Tim Grover said. I overcame personal obstacles to create confidence. And that's what I have internal confidence. And now I can lean on that and continue to push. But in the beginning, I had no idea that because I wasn't waking up at 4 a.m. and running 10 miles and I felt like a failure because I'm not disciplined like David Goggins, that now, you're a failure. You're never going to do it. Or you couldn't finish that bodybuilding show. You're a failure. You're not good enough. Now, but look at these guys. You can't run a $350 million company, with running at 4 a.m. and then, having an amazing relationship with a wife and kids and being able to be a dynamic communicator, have a best-selling book and, always be ahead of the curve in your industry. It's to me, it's not possible. There's always going to be conflicts and issues. So I just want to get the point across. And I don't know how I'm going to do this in the book, but there's a lot of stories along the way about me labeling myself as like a failure and then creating this unobtainable criteria that I had to follow in order to be at the standard that I was supposed to be at in my mind. And that was all bullshit. It was all fucking stupid. Because all it did was create stress, and not the right pressure, just stress, where that I felt like I fed into a lot of this insecurities and traumas and all the things that you grow up, that you develop in this day and age. And then you just create addictive behavior, and you create escapism, and you just turn into a fucking shell, because all you think of is like, I'm not good enough. And it feeds into that original thing, when you're a little kid, that you're not good enough. And then you just feed into it because you create these delusional standards that you're never going to be able to meet. So for me, it was like stripping it all away, saying, oh, you know what? I am good. I meet these standards. These were what I value in my life. And now I'm comfortable in who I am because every day I show up and I get them done. Like, I don't wake up and still do workout at 4 a.m. or 5 a.m. But I'll get a workout in every day, somehow, some way, right? I'll write in my journal every day. I'll talk to my parents and I make sure that they're taken care of. Like, I'll do the things that are important to me. And then all the noise, eliminate all the other noise. I don't need that shit. And it was very difficult for me in my 20s to do that. So I'm excited to show you guys the journey and the story for me to strip away a lot of that negativity that I see a lot of people buying into now.
I think there's like a lot of like that. I think you just talked about through that was how people become really wealthy. It's not through money. It's like that. Like, if you have that, and it's hard, but if you have that, or you have actual realization of who you are, like, and you really know yourself, like you had to find out a few different times, right? That is the true wealth. Like, this is me and I know it and I love it and it's amazing, right? And if you can do that, you don't need the escapism. I think the other thing is, this is what we talked about in that first episode when we first talked, was I think I told you, hey, I wasn't able to get all of my XYZ in my morning routine, right? And actually what it did, and I think what you were saying, at least for me, it made sense, is, hey man, all those things, actually, if you don't do them, it can actually take away your confidence, right? Because like, oh, if I didn't get that perfect workout in, or if I didn't get that perfect meditation in, it actually would it would actually fuck me up. It would actually then I suck for the rest of the day. When in reality, these things are supposed to make you better. They're supposed to make you like energized. And the other thing that you talk about is the energy itself. Like, these things that can suck the energy, it's so important to have it. And if you can find something like the desires that you have, and if, like you said, finding what you really desire can give you the energy to push through those tough times and those obstacles. And that's how, when you're doing that, your craft gets better, is by getting through those obstacles. I think this has been very helpful.
I know. Yeah, Marty, like I think guys like us, where we got a little chip on our shoulder, where we have to work extra hard, especially as athletes, to even, start, right? Yeah. To be at the base level, right? Yes. Against the more talented guys. And you equate harder work means more results, more effort. And that's more effort mean more results. And that's not always wrong. But what I want to get the point across is that it's you got to be very tactful. Now I understand at the level of the game that I'm playing is that they're actually the hardest work, or the best form of time, is in complete detachment, where you're not checking out. So it's like when people are like, I need a break, I need a vacation. Yeah, great. Do that. That's very important. But you don't go check out and go on a carnival cruise and gain 20 pounds by, eating a bunch of shit and drinking the whole time. You really take that time to go inside yourself and be present. And this is a battle. Like you said, it's a battle every day. But what I'm saying is that creates that inner confidence where you can be present to talk to people and listen to people, and you can see things evolve, where you're fluid, where you're allowing things like a breathing, you breathe in and you breathe out, and that you're allowed to have that cycle. So for me, people want to do business with people they like. Yes. People love to be around people they like. Yes. And when you are a ball busting driven asshole, people don't like you. And that's fine. Some people can get by with sheer will, but I think there's a trade-off in the rest of their life with the relationships and the people that they have to, every day deal with. for me, I love seeing some of these athletes or some of these entertainers or successful business people where they're so calm and they're so present and they're so cool-minded that when they're having an interview, you're like, wow, it's like this guy doesn't have a care in the world. Like he's just, he's going to go off and sit on the beach and go relax right after this thing. And it allows for so many opportunities for other people to want to do business with that person, or for him to see things, or she to see things evolve and out in the world. So for me, it's like, turning it up, having that intensity in your life, hitting it hard, doing whatever this routine is, adapting along the way, because it's never going to be structured to a point where you can always follow it. Don't worry if fucking The Rock says he works out at 4 a.m. and, and you landed at 12:30 in the morning, like I'm going to in LA, and I'm not up at 4 a.m., and I'm not working out, running on the beach. I'm not going to beat myself up. I don't give a fuck what The Rock does. I'm happy he's successful. But what I want to do is just make sure that I get through and do my daily routine. So, that to me is going to allow me to have that space where I can just be chill, man. Like right now, like we're able to do this right now. And I, there's a million things I'm supposed to do, but I did everything I feel like I have to do. And now I'm able to chill and have this conversation. And I just think it's so important where people don't check out. You're checking in, you're taking a break. You don't check out, check into your own life, be present, be around people, and then see opportunities you never saw. And then when you come back and work hard, now you have a whole nother perspective and you can enhance yourself even farther.
Yeah, the check-in thing is something a lot of people don't do. And it's great that you said that. And because it's constantly something where if you can become more aware of it, like even breathing, like in moments where you go like, oh, I should probably take a breath here. Like, oh, like being cognizant of like you're taking a breath. I think a lot of people like forget sometimes, like it's like you're like, oh, I wasn't breathing like in a normal way. Like and the little tiny things, because just like going back to this kind of circles right back to Tim Grover. Michael Jordan got him as a coach and wanted him to be his mindset coach because he didn't want to have any other, he wanted to pay him the most because he didn't want anybody else taking him. And he just wanted that little bit. Because that if you could just get that little bit when you're already a high level, right? We're all pretty high level. If anyone's here right now, you're probably high level. I had this conversation with Jared Almar. It's like, dude, the people in these rooms, everyone's high level. Everyone is been that person that has just done something great and has been high level. So now it's like to get to the next 1% of the 1%, it's tiny. It's tiny stuff. It's that breath before you act. It's those little things. It's like you said, about being calm, that flow state, like it's like, how do you find your flow? Like I could never, Jeremiah, you'll love this. I could never understand how people could like sleep before a wrestling match. Right. But now I do because they were so confident. Because now, by the way, I'm talking about people that could sleep before a match and then win. Not the people that are just going to, be a rag doll. But I was like, how? Because I would be so tense and I would have to amp myself up and I would be like, I got to get meaner. I got to get meaner. And I didn't quite have that. I just never did. I didn't have that killer instinct and that's why I lost. Mm-hmm. But I think that's the thing is like that calm and that flow but I really believe it's just being self-aware and knowing that I am that guy, or I am that person. I am that guy that can get the job done. But very difficult. Or maybe it's not as difficult as we think. And maybe it's just like, it's more of, it's a constant thing. It's not a difficult thing. It's a consistent thing that you just always have to check in and work on.
Yeah. Yeah, man. That's a good point. Really good point you bring up. I mean, I think it's just like Jordan is such a good archetype for that. Now, I mean, he is, arguably the best, right? Unbelievable. But at the same time, his demeanor, right? You could see where he was just so loose and he had fear, when you watch that Bulls documentary on him, I mean, he felt the tension, he felt the fear, especially when, had to take on the Pistons and the Knicks. Like, so he really, but he had that calmness and he would golf and he would have his cigar and he would have these outlets that would allow him to be free in his mind, and I think that's really what it comes down to right there is that for me, the way I'm wired is I've been a rebel since I've been a kid. Like at 4 years old, I would not sit in line in kindergarten and my mom would have to keep coming to the school because I did not I wanted to know, why do I need to stand in line with my arms crossed with everybody else? And it's funny she tells me that, because I just did not want to buy into someone else's rules. And that's just the way I'm wired. And I think that rebel in me really, it drives me to a degree, right? Where we have that intensity, that chip on our shoulder, and it causes us to raise our standard. At the same time, we need to feel, if we feel trapped, like even in our own austere discipline where we have to do all these things, then the whole thing that got us our edge in the first place is now disempowering us. It's our kryptonite, where we're like, oh, we have to do all this shit. Fucked all that. And that's why I would go off and binge drink, and I would do all this shit. I'd go crazy, I'd blow off steam because I have these standards in my mind that I couldn't keep. And then I would feel like now I'm stuck in this other game where I'm not even like, this isn't even my choice. I'm just doing all this stuff to be somebody that this high level, intense athlete or something. So, I mean, my point is this, and I'm just dancing around with it. Jordan he knew that this is who he is, and he's going to apply everything he can to this craft. But he also knew, as part of that craft, I get to do these other things because I earned them. And this allows me to be even a better basketball player. My golf and my hanging out with guys and my smoking the cigar, I'm able to do these things because I work for them, and they give me the ability to breathe and to be ability to recover and be calm. And then you can come back to it stronger. So, I just know why I'm talking to you, because I was the same type of wrestler as you, same type of fighter. And I was very tense. It was all adrenaline, testosterone. It was all just, amped up. And then, a few times I was able to navigate where I started to learn, it's not all about aggression, play the opponent and breathe. And then you can start to make decisions.
How many times were you gassed? Like I'd be gassed within the first period all the time because I was so freaking amped up.
Me too. I was the same way, man. Unless I could beat him with my one strategy of brute strength, because I outpowered the guy, then I was stuck, dying in the second and third period.
I was like, I can't be my lungs, man. I'm always running. I'm running, but
right. But then, if you have the actual, calmness where you can adapt in the moment to the strategy, and because you had that recovery, because you put in the time and you have the capacity, then you're good, man. So I just think it's true in business. It's true in public speaking. It's true in relationships, where you just, you're able to, if you push yourself and then you have that structured recovery or that structured pleasure or whatever you want to call it. I don't know a good word for it, but that outlet where you're not completely checked out, but you're able to allow yourself to enjoy other parts of life, but your priorities. I don't know. I'm just going to play with that in the book. And I think it's an important thing, because that air of confidence really exudes. Like, people feel it. They love it. Because they know you don't need anyone else to give it to you. You feel comfortable in what you're doing, and you feel comfortable in when you're grinding. One of the longtime traders or wealth managers at Goldman Sachs shared what he's doing, or what one of his mentors at Goldman Sachs and a big investment bank told him. And he said it was 3 things. He goes, and if you want to define your life, who you want to be in, and what will define your life as a man, 1, it's what you know. So the technical skills that you build. Number 2, it's who you know, the network that you surround yourself with. And then 3, it's who you are, who your character is every day that you bring to the table. So I think that encompasses exactly what's going to define your life. Is just those 3 things. I like that.
I love that. That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I appreciate that.
All right, man.
All right, brother. I'll talk to you, man. Thanks a lot.
Have a good one, bud.
See you, buddy.
For more information on commercial real estate investing, go to patriotholdings.com. Thanks for listening to Finding Your Edge.